Did Disney's highly anticipated live-action remake of Snow White just become the poison apple of Hollywood, potentially casting a long shadow over the promising career of its star, Rachel Zegler? From a wave of online criticism that began even before a single frame was released to reports of empty theaters and an abrupt disappearance from cinema listings, the story of this reimagined classic is rapidly turning into a Hollywood nightmare. What went wrong with this $240 to $270 million production? 1. Once upon a time, in the not-so-distant past of March 2025, Disney unveiled its latest attempt to breathe new life into one of its most beloved animated classics. Snow White won the casting of Rachel Zegler, a rising star known for her powerful vocals and captivating presence. In the titular role generated considerable buzz. Alongside her, the film boasted a star-studded cast, including Gal Gadot as the Evil Queen and Andrew Burnett. However, even before its official release on March 21st, 2025, the remake found itself embroiled in a thicket of controversies. 2 discussions surrounding the film's colorblind casting, alterations to the cherished original story, the handling of the iconic Seven Dwarfs, and even differing political viewpoints between Zegler and Gadot fueled a significant amount of debate and, for some, outright opposition. 3. The substantial budget allocated to this project, estimated between $240 and $270 million, won Disney's high hopes for its success, setting the stage for what was anticipated to be a major cinematic event. Before we dive in, please note that this video discusses publicly available news and information. When selecting visuals and audio for your own content, remember to be mindful of potential copyright and trademark issues. Please also review the reference videos provided for guidance on fair use. Upon its release, Snow White was met with a reception that can be generously described as mixed, leaning heavily towards the -0.4, while Rachel Zegler's performance was consistently lauded by many critics as a significant bright spot, often described as incandescent and captivating. 5. The overall execution of the film left much to be desired. 4 Critics pointed to a litany of issues, including a badly written script, boring and unengaging musical numbers, and a distractingly bad quality of CGI, particularly concerning the depiction of animals, and even the reimagined dwarfs. 4 The direction was also criticized as very boring, contributing to a film that felt like a slog to get through. 4 The pacing was uneven, and some felt the storyline lacked the innovation and depth expected from a modern reimagining of such a classic tale. 5 Even the predictability of the iconic story, especially the ending, was noted as a limiting factor. 4 One review went so far as to call the entire film incredibly dull, despite acknowledging Zegler's undeniable charisma. 4 This recurring theme of a talented lead performance overshadowed by fundamental flaws in the film's production and creative choices suggests a significant disconnect between Disney's vision and the expectations of both critics and audiences. The fact that multiple reviews directly compared the remake unfavorably to the original animated film indicates a failure to either capture the magic of the source material or offer a compelling modern alternative. 4 The critical disappointment was swiftly followed by a lackluster performance at the box office, transforming the film from a potential blockbuster into what some are calling a poisoned apple for Disney. 8 Despite initial hopes that Snow White would revitalize a slow start to the 2025 cinematic year, the film nosedived in its second weekend, experiencing a dramatic 66% drop in ticket sales. 8 This steep decline resulted in a mere $14.2 million in domestic earnings during the period. 9 After just 2 weeks, the film's global haul stood at a disappointing $143.10 million. 8 Considering the massive production budget, this figure points toward a substantial financial loss for Disney, estimated to be around $115 million. 1 This underperformance is particularly stark when compared to other recent Disney live-action remakes, such as The Little Mermaid, which enjoyed a much stronger opening. 11 The severity of the situation is further underscored by reports that Snow White was quietly pulled from several theaters across the U.S. shortly after its opening weekend. a move often indicative of a lack of confidence in a film's ability to draw further audiences. 13. Even a mid-budget action film with significantly less hype. A Working Man managed to outperform Snow White in its second weekend, highlighting the profound disconnect with audiences. 14. The fact that the film is projected to fall far short of its estimated $500 million break-even point further solidifies its status as a major financial setback for the studio. 17. The tepid critical and commercial reception can be attributed, at least in part, to a significant amount of negative public sentiment and what has been widely termed a woke backlash. 8. Even before its release, the film faced numerous controversies. 2. The casting of Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, as Snow White sparked racist reactions from a segment of the audience who took issue with a non-white actress portraying a character traditionally depicted as having skin as white as snow. 19. Furthermore, changes to the original story and the reimagining of the Seven Dwarfs as CGI magical creatures instead of actors with dwarfism drew criticism from various corners. 3. This decision was particularly contentious, with some arguing that it not only strayed from the source material, but also denied potential work to actors within the dwarfism community. 20. Adding fuel to the fire were comments made by Rachel Zegler herself regarding the original 1937 animated film. She described it as dated and criticized its focus on a love story involving a prince she characterized as a stalker. 9. These remarks were not well received by many fans of the classic, who felt they were dismissive and disrespectful of a beloved piece of cinematic history. 11. The differing political views of Zegler, who has publicly expressed pro-Palestine sentiments, and her co-star Gal Gadot, a vocal supporter of Israel, also contributed to the controversy, with some calling for boycotts of the film based on these stances. 3. The intense online reaction led to a phenomenon of review bombing on IMDb, where the film received an overwhelmingly negative number of one-star reviews, resulting in an exceptionally low rating. 21. While IMDb acknowledged this unusual voting activity with a disclaimer. 27. The damage to the film's online perception was significant. This barrage of negativity, stemming from a confluence of casting concerns, perceived disrespect for the original material, controversial narrative choices, and political tensions, undoubtedly played a role in the film's struggle to connect with a wider audience. The disastrous performance of Snow White inevitably raises questions about the impact on the career of its lead actress, Rachel Zegler. 9. While her talent and performance in the film were often highlighted as redeeming qualities, the fact remains that this marks another significant box office disappointment for the young star. Following previous commercial underperformers. 17. Although some argue that the blame for these failures lies with external factors, such as poor timing or the quality of the films themselves. 18. A pattern of box office bombs could eventually make studios hesitant to cast her in major blockbuster productions. 17. The controversies surrounding Snow White, particularly those stemming from her own public statements, might further complicate her career prospects by potentially alienating certain segments of the audience. 9. The fact that she currently has no officially announced movie projects in the works following Snow White is also a point of concern for her future on the big screen. 17. It is notable that Zegler has recently returned to her musical roots, releasing a cover single, which could be interpreted as a strategic pivot to solidify her image in a genre where she has consistently received positive recognition. 9. The son of the film's producer publicly criticized Zegler for her immature behavior and for allegedly harming the film's box office with her political posts, further highlighting the negative attention surrounding her involvement in the project. 23. Whether Snow White becomes a significant setback or merely a bump in the road for Rachel Zegler's career remains to be seen, but it undoubtedly presents a challenging moment for the rising star. The failure of Snow White also carries implications for Disney's broader strategy of relying heavily on live-action remakes of its classic animated films. 6. This latest stumble suggests a potential growing fatigue among audiences for these retellings. particularly when they are perceived as deviating too significantly from the beloved originals or are plagued by controversies. Point 7. The criticisms leveled against Snow White, including its perceived lack of magic, uninspired narrative choices, and reliance on often unconvincing CGI, could serve as a cautionary tale for the studio. Point 6. It might necessitate a re-evaluation of their approach, perhaps focusing more on creative innovation and a deeper respect for the elements that made the original films so enduring. Point 6. The negative reviews and box office disappointment could signal a need for Disney to take more risks on developing new and original stories rather than continuously revisiting their existing catalog. Point 7. Ultimately, the story of the Snow White remake serves as a compelling, albeit unfortunate, case study in modern Hollywood. Despite the undeniable talent of Rachel Zegler, a confluence of critical missteps in the film's execution, significant public backlash fueled by various controversies, and perhaps an oversaturation of the live-action remake market led to a significant commercial and critical failure. Whether this marks a turning point in Disney's approach to reimagining its classics or represents a major setback for Rachel Zegler's promising career remains uncertain. However, one thing is clear. This particular fairy tale adaptation did not achieve a happy ending. Now, we want to hear from you. Did you see the Snow White remake? What did you think went wrong? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this analysis, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world of pop culture and celebrity news.